How can you spot the difference between your dream job and your toxic AF dread job before taking the offer? I recently did an entire series on toxic workplaces and how to survive and move on from a toxic work environment. And one of the requests that I got was to actually help you from ending up in a toxic workplace in the first place. What are the warning signs that you can look for if you're interviewing at a company? If you're ready to learn what they are, tap that like button and then let's just jump straight into it. The first way that you can spot a toxic company before you actually join the toxic company is by reading the GLASSDOOR reviews. Now I have a whole video on GLASSDOOR reviews and how you can actually weigh them and assess them and figure out if they're even real. And that in itself is actually a sign of a toxic company. Toxic workplaces are way more concerned about how they appear to be versus the actual experience that you have when you're there. So if you're even suspecting that a company has doctored their GLASSDOOR reviews, that in itself, in my opinion, is a sign that that might be a toxic workplace. When you're not concerned about their review authenticity, you feel like these are real legitimate reviews, read through both the positive and the negative reviews. You're going to be able to pull out specific themes, and you can even watch out for the toxic workplace signs that I covered in a video that I'm going to link down below so you know all 14. Because if those things are coming up again and again consistently, whether in a positive light or a negative light, that is something that you can watch out for. The next way that you can spot a toxic company before you accept the job offer is by word of mouth. You might be thinking, I don't already know someone there. That's why I'm here watching your video, Jennifer, because I need you to help me figure this out. Don't worry, if you don't know anyone there, that's not a deal breaker for word of mouth reputation. You can actually reach out to current and former employers and ask questions about their experience working at that company. This is going to be a very fast way for you to find out if that company was toxic. Think about it this way. Most employers are going to ask you to provide employment references before they extend or finalize your job offer. They're going to call those references and they are going to find out what they have to say about you. You should be doing reference checks on them as well. That's exactly what this is. Ask questions like what they liked working about there, what they liked less, and what was their reason for leaving. You will actually be shocked by the receptiveness of so many people who've had both positive and negative experiences working with your prospective company and who are willing to tell you if that is a toxic workplace or if it's the best place that they've ever worked in their lives. Doing this is remarkably simple. You can do this all using LinkedIn, and you can use my non-gross guide to networking in order to reach out to those people, build the connections, and ask the questions that you want to ask before you sign the dotted line of a job offer. The third way to spot a toxic company before you actually work in it is by doing a vibe check during the interview. Now, hang with me for a couple minutes because I'm going to break this down because there's a few different ways that you can watch out. And basically what this is going to be is reading between the lines throughout the interview process. I will say that this is much easier when you are going to be on-site interviewing because you're just going to be able to see things, but it can still work in the virtual world as well. First, especially if it's an on-site interview, make sure that you arrive early. Sitting in the reception area isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but if you hang out there for about 5 minutes, you are going to overhear and see some people interacting. You can gauge those interactions to get a sense of how people at the company are to each other. This can really help you identify if there are any toxic workplace behaviors before you're actually in the company. Also pay attention to any interactions between people at the company to help you spot if these are positive and collaborative relationships or if they are toxic work relationships. Things like tone of voice, if they're joking around with each other, these are all indicators that it's probably a more positive place. But I don't know, maybe if there's a bunch of like bro jokes and you don't feel comfortable around those things and that's what they're showing you at the interview, that's a warning sign that that's going to be a toxic company for you. The fourth warning sign that a company that you're interviewing with might be a toxic company is they're not trying to sell you on the opportunity. Because workplace toxicity so often coincides with things like like narcissism, what you'll generally find is that toxic workplaces are much more likely to take the stance of, you're so lucky that we're considering you, versus let's consider each other. And as a job seeker, the biggest mistake that you can make in your job search is not actually interviewing the company that you may be potentially working for. This is a bi-directional decision. Just because you need a job doesn't mean that you want to have the job that they're going to give you, especially if it's in a toxic workplace. And this comes up obviously in a whole bunch of ways. How transparent are they about the actual role and the obstacles? Are they giving you time to ask questions during the interview? Are they being attentive between the different touch points and in between interviews so that you feel like you're staying in the loop? Now, just because a company goes radio silent for a few weeks doesn't mean it's toxic. It probably means that the recruiter isn't very organized or has way too much work on their plate. But these things, when you think about them all together, might tell you the story of a toxic workplace before you have the unfortunate circumstance of working for that toxic company. And that actually brings me directly to the fifth way that you can spot a toxic company before you actually go to work at that toxic workplace, and that is through asking questions. As I just mentioned, are they giving you the opportunity to ask questions? Are they giving well thought, positive answers to those questions? Or are they acting like it's kind of annoying that you have the audacity to question them at all? And there's a few different question lines that you can take here. First, I would highly recommend that you look at those Glassdoor reviews and find questions. You can actually ask questions about any of the concerns that you have that have come up in those Glassdoor reviews to kind of suss out what they're doing, see their reaction. Now, hopefully they're honest and forthright and you can take their answer at face value, but also try to get the subtext and the tension that those questions actually elicit. Aside from any precision questions that you get from reading those Glassdoor reviews, I also highly encourage you to ask questions to everyone that you interview with about the leadership style at the company culture. This is obviously a great way to tell if this is a toxic company. And also asking people what they would change or adjust about their experience working at that company to see what they say. And actually, there's one more thing. I'm gonna throw this in as a bonus because I think this is really important, especially if you've been in a toxic workplace recently. Your toxic company radar might be really, really sensitive. It might be going bing, 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 even though the company is not a toxic company at all. This might actually be a great company to work for, but you're very sensitive to those signs because of the trauma of being in a toxic work environment. This is something that I've seen very frequently in my clients, so it's something that I want you to be aware of, because when you have that awareness, you can also sit with this, think about the signs, think about the warning signs, and figure out if it's your hurt that's really surfacing and that you're suspecting that this workplace might be toxic, or if it actually is a toxic company. If you haven't already taken steps to recover from a toxic workplace, I highly recommend you go and check out this video right now because I'm going to help you with the steps to get through it. If this video helped you figure out if your prospective employer is a toxic company, give this video a thumbs up. And as always, thank you so much for watching, my friend. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.